Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel. Welcome to the Dice Tower, and today we're doing a video series called Look Back, where we take a look at reviews that I did 1 year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and 20 years ago, and I tell you what I think about them now, if I think about them at all. So let's go back 20 years ago to 2004, and the first game that I have here is called Chicken Cha Cha Cha. Now this game from Zoc was a really, really nice looking game with big giant chicken miniatures that you moved around on these eggs. And back, it's hard to remember, but 20 years ago, this was a big kids game actually, especially in Germany. But I found it to be okay, just basically memory. Nothing that really caught my attention, so 5 out of 10. I also reviewed the revised version of Axis and Allies, the 2004 edition of this. It's funny, again, because this is, in my mind, the new one. And I liked it a lot. I gave it a 7.5. I'm currently giving it a 6. This is just kind of where I want to be with Axis and Allies. I no longer wish to play a 4-hour game of this sort of thing. I think that this revised version was much better than the 80s version of the game, but just not something I want to play now. And then finally, Woolly Wars is the new version of the game, but when I reviewed it, it was called Woolly Bully. Had nothing to do with the song. This game had the very unfortunate coincidence that it actually came out, I think, earlier than 2004, like 2001, but it came out right around the same time Carcassonne. Simultaneous design, except the tiles in this one had 2 sides, and you're making groups of different colored sheep on the board. I thought it was a pretty fun little game. Not amazing, but fun and enjoyable. A 7 out of 10, and obviously did not do as well as Carcassonne. All right, 10 years ago, I reviewed One-Upmanship, Mine's Bigger. Terrible title, terrible name, terrible game, terrible everything. I did a constructed teardown of this game, giving it a 1 out of 10. And you can find even more information about that if you look for it on the web. Tessin, this game from Van Ryder, a real-time game. Didn't really love this one. I gave it a 5.5. Brave Rats, which is a reprint of a 2-player game called RR. Nice back and forth, trying to outguess the other person, a 7 out of 10. Mad City. So this Kane Klenko game, which I think is one of his first, was one of Mayfair. Mayfair at the time decided to start a new imprint of games called Funfair games, like light, fun, silly games. And this one, I gave it a 7, about building a city, kind of a speed, almost Galaxy Trucker type feel to it. But just if the components were better, I would have liked it more. But it still gets a 7. Exodus, Proxima Centauri. This one's an 8, and man, I'm still sad that the 3rd edition of this game never came out. I really like this game. It feels like a more war-oriented, but shorter Twilight Imperium, so it's fun. And Russian Railroads, an 8.5. This game, which barely seems to feel like a railroad game, has no theme at all, has a few other issues with it, and yet I still love it. I love the idea of moving up the tracks, the worker placement. There's so many interesting things about it. 8.5. All right, 5 years ago, I reviewed Monster Empire. Now, if you look at the cover of Monster Empire, it does not match what's inside the game. The cover almost looks like a motorcycle or some logo game. Inside is Monster. There's just a lot of different problems with it, so I've dropped it from a 6 to a 5. Black Mirror Nosedive. This is based on the Nosedive episode where everyone rates everybody in this Black Mirror's TV anthology series. This one's okay for me. They tried to do QR codes and things like that. It's not great. 6 out of 10. Blocks. This is there's, when I say, do I remember games? This is one of those times where I'm like, what is this one? Because a lot of these roll and write games and things look the same. Oh, that's right. This one's the Tetris one. The Tetris game. 6 out of 10. It's basically roll and write Tetris. Caverna the Forgotten Folk. Now, this one I enjoyed a lot. It gives you a very specific faction in Caverna. No longer are you all dwarves. You might be ogres or whatever it might be. And it gives you a very specific way to play. I've dropped it from an 8 to a 7. I still enjoy it, but I found that I've almost never play it. Because Caverna is such a wide, open-ended game, why would I want to play something that kind of constricts me more? And then Museum. Museum, a 7.5, a beautiful, gorgeous game with artwork by Vincent Dutray. And you're putting out these cards of the artifacts in the museum. It's very, very mathematical, very much trying to get different groups together. There's a lot of interesting things to it, but I do like the game. Last year I reviewed Heroes of Barcadia, a game where you drink your hit points away. It's okay at best. It's waterproof, and a lot of people are going to like it, and obviously it's meant to be a drinking game. I'm drinking Kool-Aid, but still, 6 out of 10. And Star Wars, the deck building game, which is kind of fascinating because right around now we're playing Star Wars, the collectible card game. So Star Wars, the deck building game, I enjoyed it a lot. I was really surprised at how much I liked it. It had some nice come-from-behind mechanisms, one of the best catch-up mechanisms I've ever seen in a game. 8 out of 10. And those are reviews I did 1, 5, 10, and 20 years ago. I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you next time.